All right, I'm going to save this and I'm going to close the solution. We're going to open one more. So I'm going to open a project or a solution. And now I'm going to do daily rate using optional parameters. So opening up that solution. And you might think, oh no, we're back to square one. Well, this is going to be a little different than the last one. This is daily rate, but the focus of this is on creating several calculate fee methods and showing you how to create optional parameters. And the way you do that is you set default values for the parameters. And if you set default values, that makes them optional because there's a value for it to use if you don't pass anything. So there's actually not that much coding we have to do here. So we're going to do our run method last, and we're going to do 3 different versions of calculate fee. And so it's going to be private. It's going to return double. Now this first one, we are naming our parameters daily rate, and we're giving it a default value. And we're naming our second one number of days, and we're giving that a default value. That means that if they don't pass anything, we can use our defaults. Okay, so we have calculate fee. We've got 2 parameters that we have default values set for. We're going to actually do a little console.writeLine here to identify which method we're in. So we are in calculate fee using 2 optional parameters. Okay. And then we're returning daily rate times number of days. All right, so this is our first one. Now our second one is going to be similar. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it. And the second one, instead of having 2 parameters with values, we're just going to have 1. Okay. And as long as the parameters are different, we can have the same method name. This is called method overloading. And it will allow it as long as what we have in our parameter list is different. So this one for the writeLine, we are now using calculate fee with 1 optional parameter, but we still do need the number of days. So we're going to do a variable here called default number of days. We're setting that to 1. And then we're going to multiply the daily rate by the default number of days. Okay, and so this is now our second method called calculate fee. And we are going to do a third method. So I'm going to copy this one, paste it, and it's flagging it as an error because right now it is the same as the second one. So this third one is not going to have any parameters, which means we have to have 2 default values. So this is going to be calculate fee using hard-coded values, which is not something that we normally like to do. And so we've got a number of days hard-coded, and I'm going to do a default daily rate. Oops, equals 400. And then down here, we need to use that default daily rate. All right, so now we have our 3 methods all called calculate fee. So this is an example of method overloading. We got three methods with the same name. So what it's doing is it's looking at the parameter list to figure out which one it should use. Also in our parameters, we have default values, which means they will work, okay, if we don't send them anything. So up in our run method, we're going to test these different methods. So I'm going to say double fee equals, and we'll call the one that doesn't require any parameters first. Calculate fee. This is the one that doesn't require anything. And then we're going to write out what we return here. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. Now, before we run, it's always a good idea to figure out what it should return, right? So we would expect 400 to be printed out for the fee. All right, and it went into hard-coded values. That's exactly what we expected. All right, so now we're going to test some of the other ones. So if we send it 650, I would expect now that it would go into this one because we only have one parameter. Okay, and this is the one with one parameter. Okay, so let's run that. And it is the one with the one parameter, and the fee is 650, exactly what we expect. So how do we test the top one? Well, we can send it two values, okay? And that will definitely test the top one. Okay, 6,500, so 650 times 10, exactly what we would think. And then how do we send it the number of days without the daily rate? Well, this is where you get into passing a named parameter. So if we just want to send it the number of days and we want to use that default of 500, we can do this. We can say number of days colon 10. Okay, and so then it's going to look, well, the only one with the number of days is this one. Okay, so it's automatically going to go to this one and use the daily rate of 500. And that is exactly what it did. Okay, so we've got default values that it will use. Okay, and so um, it will also allow us to use named parameters and set the value for that. And you can see the advantage of that. If we had a bunch of parameters listed here and we only had values for a couple of them, we could actually specify the parameters that we had values for, and it would use the default values for the rest, which is kind of a cool feature. So at this point, you can save it and you can go ahead and close the solution.